y'all, it's your captain for all things creative coming at you with The Love is Blind, Season 6, Episodes 7 through 9 review. Now, if you are new to this channel, please like and subscribe. And if you're returning, thank you so much for rocking with us. And let's get into the details because it's a lot to talk about. So, Episode 7, we're still at the honeymoon. You see Jimmy apologizing to Chelsea yet again, and I don't believe him since he didn't even bother getting down on one knee like all the other guys did and proposing to Chelsea in person when he saw her and putting a ring on her finger because he was so disappointed when he saw her, and it's just manifesting in all these different ways. And I still think that he is trying to do the right thing and he's going along to get along as far as he can in the process. And I think he also wants to see Jess. Next, you see Brittany and Kenneth talking about the other couples, and Kenneth kind of, tells Brittany about what AD had told him about race and raising black children. And Brittany says that for her, it's the intent that matters to her the most. And Kenneth said he basically felt nothing but good intent and that it was a well balanced combo. And, race is definitely a construct, but it does have very real consequences. So in this scene, I did see Kenneth look worried for the first time, especially when Britt then asked what she needs to do to make his people feel like they're good and that he especially is good in the relationship. And he says that's a good question because he don't even know. But ultimately, he said his people are just gonna want to see her, for themselves and feel her out. So, Amy and Johnny are seen horseback riding briefly. And you see Jimmy and Chelsea off-roading. And you see AD and Clay kissing in a car at a red light, so it's basically a montage of all the couples on the honeymoon. But the next big scene is Laura and Jeremy who are recovering from Bean Dip Gate. Jeremy had said that he's going home after Laura, tried to blame him for the whole thing, but I wasn't sure, if he had gone back down to the hotel room or if he was trying to just go back to America from the DR. But he's basically still at the honeymoon. He just left the party and apparently he left their honeymoon bedroom suite and slept down to the sofa the night before, and then she slept in the bed. And she says that, he had emotionally iced her out. Now, Laura asked Jeremy, to try to keep pillow talk to himself, hold some water, and not embarrass her. So you could tell she's still not taking responsibility for any part that she played in Bean Dipgate, even though she was the one who made that really nasty comment for him to slap AD's boobs. It's just so problematic on so many levels. But she just says she did nothing wrong to him. And Jeremy basically is the bigger person, takes all the blame, says he was in his feelings last night, but he recognizes that they should have talked it out and he will fix his approach in the future. So I think Jeremy's more mature than Laura in spite of Laura acting like he's so childish and beneath her, talking about his Hawaiian shirts like a superficial, I shall not name what, but he also said that he had some time when he watched her in her sleep and she looked cute to him, so he was kind of buttering her up and definitely melted the ice that, had formed the night before. But I really think that, Jeremy's too good for Laura right now. And I think that he again said something powerful. He's like, he's not gonna throw away their connection over ego. So he's very, self-aware, thoughtful, and they go a little too far though when they start comparing themselves to the other couples, and they rank themselves as the number one couple. And I was like, stop, that's Amy and Johnny, so back off. So speaking of Amy and Johnny, you see them having a nice scene where he compliments her curly, natural hair. And honestly, things are so good between them that I gloss over their scenes sometimes because I'm not really worried about them, even though they do say that they have, the issues about the birth control and all that. But really, it's a simple fix. They're making a big deal out of it, but really, there are lots of things that they could do to um, family plan and avoid early pregnancy. Obviously, life happens, but I mean, they're not willing to do baby steps more because of Johnny's fear, but we'll get into it. So then we cut to Brittany and Kenneth having the most awkward, terrible date in history until some dolphins save the day. And Kenneth starts fanboying out about dolphins. And I'm here for it since my spirit animal is a dolphin and I love them. And then later on in their date, Kenneth says his love language is physical touch. And Brittany says she's similar and likes to show, you know, her partner that she cares through touch. And she says, though, that she questions whether he was into her, but now she sees that he's a gentle giant who's respectful. So he should know that he could never touch her too much or overwhelm her with physical things in her eyes. So they proceed to cuddle and hold hands on the boat a little bit. And I just thought they better not fall asleep because Brittany could wake up like a lobster. It's very, very sunny out there. So next, AD and Claire talking, and I guess it comes up that she had danced in 2 Super Bowl Sunday events in the past. And then Clay tells her that his dad is Guyanese. And I automatically knew that's why, he admires his dad so much because Guyanese people do have a lot of swag. And, as someone who's of Guyanese descent myself, I realized maybe that's the soft spot that I have for Clay. And he basically was eating food very interestingly. And it started out as a kind of light and funny scene watching him struggle with that soup. But then it kind of turned for me because I feel like AD went from laughing with him to kind of laughing at him and then kind of staring at him and getting some creeped out kind of vibes by the way he was acting because Clay just looks like a ball of nervous energy by the end of this scene. He's, started off by eating the soup very sloppily, but then he starts cleaning the table and like piling up everything kind of out of nervousness. And he seems to be in his head a lot about things. And AD sensing this and sensing his fears and maybe having her own fears. So she asks him about, what's going on in the moment. And he says that he struggles in the back of his mind about how divorce affects families. And he says he has real feelings for AD and he can see her as his wife. But again, in the back of his mind, he has fears. And he ultimately says he wants to believe in love. But the two kind of just have to hold hands and sit in all those emotions that are clearly uncomfortable together. So we cut to Brittany and Kenneth being neat freaks together. And then you see Johnny saying that he woke up thinking about marrying Amy and he felt positive about it. And you see Jimmy looking drunk. And then the couples meet again for a feast, and it seems like Laura, Chelsea, and AD may have consummated their marriage. And AD and Jimmy are sitting together again. And AD makes a joke that she's glad that talking about her booty helped Chelsea and Jimmy get to the next level in their relationship. Next, you see Johnny and Amy actually socializing with the other couples for once. And Johnny reveals to Laura that they're actually not having relations since Amy's not on birth control. And Jimmy is eating everything. And Jeremy then apologized over being Gypgate again. And I really think he's a stand-up guy. And then Jeremy and AD talk about Clay, and Jeremy advised her to just let him have his space when he's quiet and in his like processing zone. And AD says that that advice actually helped her a lot because you saw, she was in her head about what was going on with Clay earlier when they were, eating together. So I appreciate Jeremy for being perceptive in that way and like calming AD's fears. Next, when AD and Clay are kissing, Kenneth seemed to get turned on by that. And I felt like Kenneth was actually more of his true self with a much lower guard just around, the other melanated people. But he's holding back around Brittany or he's really not comfortable with her. Next, you see Jeremy admitting to Amy that he actually wants to meet Sarah Ann, his other pod choice that he had dumped, and he kind of wants to get closure since he thinks those two could probably be friends. And this is key because it's going to come up later. And Amy makes this is awkward face, and she might run and go tell Laura because this information is quite juicy. So next, Jimmy adds being a glutton to his Love is Blind rap sheet by explaining to Chelsea that he bit his lip scarfing down taquitos so that nobody else could have any, which is not a nice character trait or healthy thing to do. And she is a little shocked, but he actually uses this taquito lip injury to ask her to go easy on the kisses, which I think is a cop out. He's already making excuses to do less to her and for her. But he says that a lot of the honeymoon was fun to him. And for now, Chelsea's like, yeah, better be because we're gonna get married. So she's the first one to bring up marriage, and the first Jimmy just laughs. But then he does say he's going to marry her, which I don't believe. Next, you see Amy and Johnny swimming, and Amy says that her parents be in her business a lot, especially her dad. So Johnny has a lot of proving to do to them in the future. And then Amy drops a little bombshell that she doesn't think she can move forward without her dad's blessing. So just as much as I think Amy and Johnny are the best couple, Amy does seem like she really loves and cares for her family. And if Johnny don't get that dad's blessing, I totally see her not, going through with it, especially because they didn't consummate the marriage yet either. So next, all the couples are seen packing. They return to North Kakalaki. And then you see Laura and Jeremy in their apartment first, and they're negotiating closet space. And then they lay down a bunch of rules about what messes they will and will not tolerate. Jeremy says he's never been in love before, and he thinks that is what he might be experiencing with Laura. Next, you see Brittany and Kenneth move in, and he demands that she cooks on top of unpacking. And she jokes about why can't they just order food? And I was thinking about Brittany's, pick me moments in the pod talking about she want to be led by a man and she not really no alpha female. And this is why people need to stop telling lies and stop selling dreams to people since Brittany is now having this man telling her what to do, telling her to go cook without helping her. And this is what she wished for. So be careful what you wish for, people. And yeah, he's just on his phone, hooked on his screen while she was working like a maid, unpacking everything and apparently having to go cook for them. So then she obviously starts to get her feelings because I would feel away if I'm doing all this work and the person that's supposed to be my partner is not doing anything. And then when he finally gets off his phone, he actually doesn't offer to help with anything, but just tells Brittany that he's gonna go chill downstairs. And he goes downstairs to be on his phone. And I said, that could not be me. Last for episode 7, we see AD and Clay in their apartment, and her eyelashes finally look normal. I think she took off the bird wings that she had on before, and it looks so much better. And then Clay tells AD about his dad, and even though he looks up to his dad, he does explain how his dad was a bad influence on him in terms of like his perceptions of if someone can be faithful to one person. And his dad was such a menace to women that apparently he even took Clay on trips with him while he was cheating on Clay's mother, which is another reason why I think Clay would definitely benefit from therapy, because that is diabolical for his dad to take him on cheating trips like that. And then I think he mentions like Diddy and Will Smith also being part of his reasons why he thinks like relationships might not work. And Diddy especially, um, it's not representative of, all black, relationships. Just because people are celebrities doesn't mean that they're role models per se. So Clay should rethink, some of what he's putting out there about, relationships not working just because of, certain people who don't even, purport to be relationship role models. So again, he would benefit from therapy. And I actually think that the advice that Jeremy gave AD was a benefit to her, and it helped her since she seemed calmer and less stressed by Clay talking through his emotions this time around. And the episode ended with AD just listening so well, like she always does. And we move on to episode 8, which gets very juicy very quickly. So Chelsea and Jimmy see her place, and with all her insecurities coming up in the little confessional, she talks about whether if Jimmy's gonna leave her if he sees a dust bunny. And thankfully her friend is there to lighten up the mood, but I don't think Jimmy likes her friend. And then we see Jimmy's place, and he tells her that his place is too small for Chelsea to move into. And then she said that the place looked big enough to her. But again, this is another little roadblock. He does not want to move in with her, and I don't think they're getting past the wedding, in my opinion. But he's gonna move into the little shared apartment, but he's like, not my studio. So next year, Clay and AD are at his place, and he says he would like for her to move in, unlike Jimmy. And from his jerseys and the pics, it seems like he was a track star in college. Correct me if I'm wrong. He went All American. And again, I'm seeing why I have a soft spot for Clay, because I was also a track athlete. And then we got the Guyanese connection, So I am going to keep rooting for Clay. I know some people, are on the fence about him, but I side on Kenneth way more than Clay. Clay is so much more, um, at least attempting to put in the work and genuine in his, appreciation of AD. I don't even know if Kenneth knows that Brittany's there half the time. Whereas Clay, he's working through some fears that you can tell are really making him second guess and think twice and not have as much confidence sometimes. But I think Clay does want to, try to make things work with AD. Next, you see Jeremy. And apparently, Jeremy never went to college, but he had a good business acumen to the point that there are news clippings of him and his father doing business in the local news, hanging up in the little gym section of his house, which is his garage. And then Laura's impressed with Jeremy's house, and I'm glad that she's starting to put some respect on his name. Shout out to Birdman, because Laura, she is the one that I think is projecting a lot of her own, shortcomings and her own immaturities onto Jeremy. Jeremy does seem like a solid guy, and she even goes into this little mean girl mode where he's like, "Oh, he might be a serial killer because how clean she is." And I feel like Laura does have this little mean girl streak, and that's why I don't feel sorry for her later on in the episode. From since being Dipgate and beyond, and even her own family, has opinions, which we'll talk about. But he then shows her his sleep machine after asking her to test out his bed. And they cuddle on it with him kind of looking like the Elephant Man with the long tube through his nose. Next thing, you see Brittany and Kenneth. Ooh, child, Kenneth's place. I'm glad he cleaned out his fridge, but did he have to clean out all the seasonings too, or did he just not have them? And then I thought, oh yeah, he's waiting for his wife to cook everything for him. So he might be one of those men who's really not trying to do anything for themselves. He wants a maid and a mule, and judging by I think it was 2 spices in his cabinet, he's definitely waiting on Brittany to cook him everything. And Brittany's starting to see the flaws in his personality. Kenneth is talking to her and on his phone at the same time as usual. And Brittany's finally honest with her frustration with Kenneth's attitude. And then Kenneth got his twists out, and he's kind of gaslighting Brittany a bit about needing grace when he's not showing his big personality. And I was like, wait, what personality? He's like, he can't be on all the time. And I get that, because I am an introvert. Like, I can, be on and excited to, talk to people and meet people, because I'm naturally like curious. But at the end of the day, I do get drained by it. And then I need time to like myself to retreat and recharge and all of that. But Kenneth rarely shows up for Brittany. Maybe he's on a lot at his job. And in the pods, when his phone wasn't there, he spoke to her. As soon as he got that phone back, he can't even speak to her without looking on his phone. So, yeah, Kenneth, at first, I doubt if he was Gen Z, because, he presents as a much older guy. But when I see him on his phone, he looked like a teenager that I used to have to take phones from when I was teaching. So next we see Chelsea's people, and she does the T-Rex run to them again, and I need her to stop running, or to get a trainer to teach her how to run properly. The track person in me, when I see her hunched over, like waddling, the form is not there. And then Chelsea tells her people, about the pause, and says that Jimmy was a hot commodity and dating a bunch of girls. And that for me confirmed that she was competing with Jess. And that's part of the problem with Love is Blind. There are a lot of people that go into it kind of like with popularity contests, or I think it's a little bit high school mode too, because it's like, maybe to be generous and fair, they're thinking that the more people that like a person, the more likely it is that they are a good person, a good choice. But she had a good choice, a good man in Trevor. So if she was just confident in herself and their connection, she could have had a great thing. But she went for the popular thing, which was Jimmy. And again, maybe she thought that she couldn't trust herself to pick the good guy. So she went with the guy that everybody else thinks is great, but so childish. You got to do what's best for you, because, you know, my my culture has a saying, like, if you sleep with someone else's eyes, you wake up where you don't want to be. You gotta judge things for yourself, for your own life, for your own personality. And again, As Chelsea is relaying the story of the pots to her friends, I'm seeing what she was thinking and the kind of problems that she has with her insecurities and all that coming out. Because again, she's saying how Jim was such a hot commodity, dating a bunch of girls in the pots, and that she was also dating a bunch of guys too. But she does admit that at first Trevor was her number one, but Trevor only dated her and went in to propose. So again, she downgraded Trevor for being loyal to her, which again, I think it's like a self-sabotaging thing to do. You diss the guy who was loyal to you and wanted only you, but went for the guy who was the so-called popular pick who clearly ain't that into you. So then she also talks about how she guessed that he had a mullet, but she I guess chose Jimmy because he fit her better. They then asked her if she has seen Trevor yet, but she said no. But the real tea that she tells them now is how Jimmy did not kiss her for the past day, and apparently he saw a picture of Jess, and he's been different, sick over it, since Jess is stunning. Dun, dun, dun. Jimmy then comes in from work, meets Chelsea's friends, and proceeds to embarrassing Chelsea. Since Jimmy's pod story is all about Jessica, who's not even in the episode yet. And Jimmy gonna tell them how he was all into Jessica and quote, she was the only person I was really considering, and I had strong feelings about her, but it ended poorly. So he tells them he was heartbroken, and then Chelsea picked him back up again, which proved that Jimmy was into Jess until he told her about the kid, and he was disillusioned by Jess, right? So he had a break in the dream that she sold him at first by hiding the kid from him, and once he heard about the kid and all that, his dream was shattered. His vision of her was shattered. He fell out of love and into Chelsea's T-Rex arms, right? So then I really also felt like he's preparing himself for going back to Jess, because this narrative that was Jess all along is very much giving like he's gonna get back with Jess, but we shall see. And I would be embarrassed if I was Chelsea to have that be my engagement story that you're telling to my friends all about this other this other woman. So he, you know, tells the story, of Chelsea being the rebound cleanup woman, picked him back up after he fell out over Jess. And then Chelsea tries to clean up the love story and inserts that Jimmy told her that he loved her first. She fell down on the floor and was happy over that. But Jimmy embarrassed her enough. That wasn't cute to me after all that. So then in front of the friends, Jimmy's saying now that Chelsea can move into his studio when he had previously said that she can't move in because it was too small. So then I just knew again that Jimmy talks out of both sides of his mouth. He just be lying. Next, Jimmy and Chelsea rehash Megan Fox Gate and about how, Chelsea had lied and said that she looked like Megan Fox. And then when Chelsea asked her friends, who do people tell me that I look like the most? And her friend said, Carrie Underwood. And I laughed. So even her own friends do not say that she gets, you look like Megan Fox. They said that people tell her she looked Carrie Underwood based. But then she prompts them again. She's like, no, 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 please. Who else do I kind of look like? Then they're like, oh, Megan Fox eventually. And I just thought that Chelsea needs to let it go, because if there's a hill to die on, it should not be this hill, particularly the Megan Fox lookalike hill, because it's not serving you to, have this lie that already hurt your relationship with Jimmy. Because if you did not tell him this image, he would have not had anything to judge your looks against. And she is a good looking girl. It's like she doesn't look like Megan Fox, but she looks like herself. And if Jimmy did not have that, you know, shattered dream of meeting Megan Fox, I'm pretty sure he'd be treating her 1,000 times better. So, next you see that, Jimmy, Chelsea's friends, small talk a little more, and we cut to Amy and Johnny. Now, Amy's showing Johnny her crystal collection. He jokingly freaks out a bit, and it seems like they both want to get a house soon and stop renting. Plus, Johnny wants to live as frugally as possible so he can retire early. But Amy says that she wants to enjoy life too. So, besides the birth control, family planning stuff, they might also fight over finances. But they seem willing to make some compromises for one another. And the fear of kids too early is very strong with Johnny and Amy. And then Amy suggests a vasectomy. They agree to do research on it before the wedding. Now, from what I understand, vasectomies are reversible, but there's lots of other things that they can do. Next, you see Brittany and Kenneth have a talk about him waking her up late. Um, and the thing is, she had to wake up early at like 5 in the morning, and he woke her up maybe at like 1 or 1:30 or something. So, yeah, she was not in the mood to deal with him then, clearly, because she wanted to get her rest. And then she asked him, though, also about coming home late, and that desire, is missing in their relationship. And he stops her while she's trying to finally get whatever it is off her chest, because I knew something was off between them all along. And he says that what she's not going to do is say that he is constantly out in the streets late all the time, since he was getting his hair retwisted and then meeting his mentor the other day. And I was like, oh, where's all this bass and attitude coming from? But again, this is what Brittany wanted, a man to lead her and, tell her what to do and what time it is. And uh, I knew this was the end, or the beginning of the end. So then she then is told by Kenneth that she is the one who often pushes him away when he goes for intimacy. And then he wants her to reevaluate and be introspective about what she needs to do for him as her man and take their intimacy to the next level. And I thought, all right, his son of Kevin Samuel is really giving Brittany the blues. And Brittany just looks so tired. And then again, I wanted to feel sorry for her, but I can't remember her pick me speeches about wanting the man to lead her. And now she has Kenneth leading her around in circles to nowhere. And thankfully, Kenneth has mercy on her and just calls the relationship done out of the lack of chemistry. But he does blame her for it. He's like, basically saying that, if the chemistry is not there on her end, that is a her problem, because that is not the case for him. He does have the desire for her, but because of their promise to God to keep celibate, you know, that's the type of caliber of man he is. But what she's saying was that she was not ready for the type of caliber of man that he is in reality, even though she said she wanted his caliber of a man. And he said he's not willing to force anything, since what God has for them will be for them, which I did like. I like him saying that part, but a lot of the other things that he said to her was very Kevin Samuel-esque, and it was not the best way to deliver the news, but somebody had to end this relationship because them two was just suffering. And he said he's not willing to suffer for no reason when they don't have to, which was also, a good thing for him to say. So then he goes back on his phone while Brittany cries, and then they break up, and he finally gives her a hug after they call it quits. And this was the most emotional and really relaxed I've seen Kenneth look when he was doing the breakup hug. I felt like he was really relieved. And then, he just goes back on his phone again, walks upstairs. She cries alone downstairs. And he immediately has a phone call, which was making me feel like he was dealing with somebody else all along because the call, apparently, he's like, you know, he says, "What's wrong?" at first. And he's like, "All right, I'm packing my stuff and I'll be there right away." And it's like, to me, I feel like he was going over to whoever he really cares about house since he left Brittany for dead so fast. Next, you see Chelsea confronting Jimmy. Oh, this is like really cringy. Chelsea confronts Jimmy about not kissing her. And he's claiming that his lips still hurt from the taquitos at the honeymoon. And she starts being needy again. And he goes back and forth with her about the not kissing since he said he kissed her on the cheek twice. Then the real tea is that Jess issue, right? What Chelsea says is that Jimmy been acting strange since he seen that picture of Jess. And then Jimmy tries to defend himself, but doesn't do it well by basically saying that Jeremy is the one who started asking him about if he had seen Jess yet and then showed him her Instagram. And he says he is confident in his decision, but then still blames his lip for their issues. And then he starts complaining about wanting, Chelsea starts complaining about wanting him to want her. And I can see Jimmy getting so tired trying to convince Chelsea that he cares about her. And she will convince him out of liking her at all. Even if he had a little bit of like and a little bit of try in him with that constant nagging, she's going to convince him that she doesn't deserve love, even though she does. This is why you cannot play these insecurity games, right? And he gets tired of the nagging and just gets mean. And he outright calls her clingy, which makes Chelsea lose it and get real angry at him. And she starts alternating between crying and yelling at him. So whenever he tries to talk and maybe apologize, she tells him to shut up multiple times so that she can give him more, one-sided speeches and spiels. And it just keeps getting from worse to worser when Chelsea goes low and then Jimmy goes to hell and embarrasses Chelsea again. So she starts saying that he's been making problems since he's seen Jess' picture. And, she's been doing everything from watching what shows he wants to having sexual relations with him. And then Jimmy gets real evil and says that Chelsea is the one who wanted to have relations because, to be honest, he could use a break from having relations with her too. And then Chelsea hides her face behind her hands and just runs out of the house since that had to hurt. And then Jimmy doesn't chase after her. He grabs his hoodie and a little overnight bag and says he's going to his apartment because he needs space and these two need not be together. Then you see Jess and Laura meeting up, and we get Jess's side of the story, which is mixed with stories about her 10-year-old allegedly asking for her to be married, which I doubt. But the reality is that she says that she got a friend request from Jimmy when the couples got back from the honeymoon. So basically, as soon as they got their phone back from Nick and Vanessa, apparently Jimmy got to Facebook and Jess. And she said that he withdrew the friend request immediately and then made his page private, which she takes as meaning that Jimmy wanted to see what she looked like. So it wasn't Jeremy that had to show him pictures, according to Jess. He went off Facebook on his own. Then Jess got to spill more tea about Jeremy and Sarah Ann by telling Laura that Sarah DM'd Jeremy, Sarah Ann, which was the other competition in the pod for Laura. And then Laura did her one better with her detective skills and said that if Jess wants, they could read the DM together because Laura had been on the case and she screenshotted Jeremy's phone and proceeds to read what Sarah Ann said, which was basically, if you change your mind, holla at me. And then Sarah said that Jeremy didn't reply, but she has her good eye on the two of them because Jeremy did heart the message. And then Chelsea just goes full villain and says that, well, she's team Jimmy. So she was like, Laura, whatever you got going on with Jeremy, I'm not even gonna pretend to be a good friend. Let's continue to talk about me home wrecking and creeping on Jimmy. And she said she did digging up on Chelsea and Jimmy, and all of Jimmy's exes look like her. And once again, I'm disappointed in Laura for not talking just off the stalker ledge that she's on, because this digging and looking at all of Jimmy's exes when he broke up with you, that's a lot. I said Jess has a little, evil side. Everybody was saying she ate in the pot when she's talking about him choking on his EpiPen. That's evil to me. You don't wish evil on people with their health. And then this stalking, looking up his exes, that's also not great. Like, that's stuff you get a restraining order for. So basically, Laura needs to also examine herself if she's co-signing all this, especially because she knows Chelsea. She's been on the honeymoon smiling in her face. And that's why I don't feel sorry for Laura for what happens to her. This is getting long, so I'm going to do episode 9 separately. But say what you think in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, you are the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. Bye.